然后呢，他同时呢，他是挪威音乐院的现任的这个指挥的教授啊，那他都是在那个国际的这个很大的这种指挥比赛里面呢，都是担任评审的。所以呢，今天我们真的是很大的荣幸哈，可以来听他的演讲。那他今天演讲的题目主要是叫做无声胜有声，好，就是怎么样透过指挥，其实很多都是在把一些只可意会不可言传哦，你透过一些手势动作，把这些很小的细微的，但是很重要的音乐沟通，哦，都在他的这手指这些举止里面呢，来发挥出来，然后来让大家可以来理会，来理解，好，所以我相信呢，这个应该大家会很有收获。好，那我们就把这个现在是要交给我们的那我们就来欢迎他。
Professor, are you okay?
I'm fine.
Are you sure?
I'm fine. I move a lot. I move when I speak. I move when I play, and I move when I conduct. And I move when I go to work, and I move from Norway to Taiwan. And I feel sometimes inner movement as well. For instance, if I see a film, if I go to theater, listen to music, listen to a good story, actually, movement, including being moved, has become my profession. Good afternoon. My name is Sigmund Thorp. I'm a conductor, and today I have the pleasure of sharing with you a big topic. No, it's not climate change, and it's not economy, but it's movement. Movement that you can see, and movement that you can feel. Everything in connection with non-verbal communication. Did you know that your non-verbal communication is more than 12 times more powerful than your words? And did you know that almost 90% of all communication is non-verbal? So what do we actually communicate when we don't use words, but we use everything else? Well, maybe having witnessed my entrance, you should know a little bit about non-verbal communication already. So, what did I use? Well, I used the following, a combination of many things. I walked with a certain speed, with a certain direction, and I sat down away from Timothy, and Timothy asked me, are you okay? And I said, I'm fine. And then he asked, are you sure? And what did I say? I said, I am fine. So I changed my words completely. And how did I change my words? I changed the pitch, I raised the volume, and I talked more slowly. These things that I use, that I put on top of the words, is called paralinguistics. Para means over, linguistics has to do with words. So I changed the words. And you can also see that I was sitting like this, not very open, but rather close body language. So what did you believe? Did you believe my words, or did you believe my body language? Right, think about that. I believe that maybe I said I was fine, I am fine. Maybe you didn't believe that, but you could see something that I was lying to Timothy. I guess so. So, I will present for you different elements in the nonverbal communication in general, and I will connect it to our profession, my profession, the conducting, and how I can communicate with my ensemble, mostly without words. And think of this. All of you who plays in an orchestra, why do you become musicians? Well, because you won't like to play, not necessarily because you want to listen to a conductor who's talking and talking and talking. Yeah. So, the nonverbal communications, what does it include? Well, you have seen some already. Body movements, postures. Posture is what I do with my upper body in a large extent. And the movements with your head, face expressions, eyes, arms, or what I do with my arms, hands, fingers, and so on. And also, of course, the tone of your voice. All these elements communicate a person's emotions, intentions, and they all contribute to how we communicate and understand each other. And for conductors, of course, body language and the projection of our musical intentions go very closely together. Yes. Body language, you have seen it already, can be broken into two major categories: positive and open. Most conductors should be open, but sometimes every one of us will present a negative and a closed body language. Yes, have a look at this. Yes. The upper one is pretty close, like I do now, or like I did. And this guy, maybe you can see who it is. He's pretty open, and open for the world. And these two broad categories of cues, they show how open, as you can see, or closed someone are to their external environment. And knowing more about how and what these cues communicate is very fundamental to understand how an orchestra musician and anyone else in every certain context can respond to you. We could start with a handshake. A solid handshake. What does it say? Well, you meet someone, well, in the old days before the pandemic, we did this, hello, my name is, and I could also do this if I was a conductor with both hands. What does it signal? It signals energy, confidence, openness, respect, and trust. And all these qualities are qualities that we should need both before and during a musical interaction. So, a good opening position for a conductor could be with open hands, good eye contact, and if you see, if I didn't have this microphone, you could see that I have a bend in my elbow like this, two hands, and also my fingers are pointing a little bit downwards. This is an open position. I'll put down my microphone so that you can see with both hands. I'm sure you have seen conductors before, but still. You can see this. Right. This is a very good opening position for a conductor, which means that we are ready to do things together. So I invite musicians or the singers or whatever to join me in the performance or the rehearsal. So I call this the inviting hands. Then we have something called authentic mirroring. I'm sure that you have been mirroring friends, other people many, many times, maybe without knowing. What is authentic mirroring? It is to display the similar body language or to other people during a social situation. And when you're conducting an ensemble, of course, you are in a very social situation all the time. So, as conductors, we mirror a lot. Think of it. If I do a movement like this, it's very close to a down bow. And if I do this, it's very close to an up bow. Or, for instance, if I do this or this, what instrument is this? Well, maybe it's a harp, most likely. Or trombones. Or if I want to make a line, I do this, for instance. So we do mirror, we project something that has a message with our body language, our hands in this context, almost all the time. And research at the University of Michigan explains that mirroring helps us to cooperate. And of course, as conductors, we really want orchestras to cooperate with us. So remember that. And you can think of this. According to the same research, mirroring is supposed to lead to more food, better health, and economy, better economy. So hopefully this also applies to conductors. Have a look at this conductor. I think he has taken the point. Very clear, wasn't it? Yeah, he enjoyed playing the music, and he was playing the music together with his musicians. So, the next thing we have is head movements. And head movements are very important communicators when it comes to nonverbal communication and how to understand nonverbal communication. And certain head movements are very cultural specific. For instance, if I do like this, or this, it means that I agree to something, or maybe I disagree to something, or maybe there's something I don't understand. Yes. So if I'm holding a speech, like now, and if I have an audience who's doing this, maybe I can take that as a sign that you are maybe a little bit interested in what I'm talking about, and that you understand. You understand? Do you understand? Yes, I think you understand. More specifically, as a conductor, I can use the head movements in a very different musical context, in a different numerous ways, especially maybe related to character and tempo. And have a look at some of these head positions that underlines musical expression. Look at this guy. He used to look down for about 30 years. Yes. During his career, he looked down most of the time, especially when the TV cameras were on. He looked down. But in the rehearsals, he actually communicated very well with his musicians. So look at the next one. Yes, the opposite, completely opposite. This is also something. I will get back to this very soon. But he's more available, I would rather say. Yes, and also this one. Yes. It's difficult to see the face, but you can see that the face is upward. Up. And this is the point. If you have an upward tilted head, this can display both confidence and sympathy. And actually this position, dear conductors, or who want to be conductors or whatever you are, can actually also increase your charisma. You thought of that? Maybe not, but think of it. It can actually increase your charisma. And as human beings, we like to look up at someone, like, for instance, parents. They seem to know everything. And conductors, of course, they know everything. Or at least they should know everything. And conductors, you should be aware of this. I mean, I very often see conductors who who maybe they talk to someone, they talk to the oboes, and they say, "Oboe, can you please?" Well, there are no oboes there. Oboes are there. Yeah. So remember that the following, and I usually say this quite often. Please, when you are dealing with someone and you conduct, please, it's more important to have the score in your head than the head in the score. So, score in head. Very important. Okay, the next is facial expressions. Yes, have a look at this face. Yeah, a lot of things going on. Can you see this? The facial expressions are responsible for a huge proportion of non-verbal communication. And think of it, how much information can you get from a smile? No. Non-verbal communication goes on all the time, and now we're talking about conducting, but think of the non-verbal communication that you see and that you project when you are together with other people. The look of the person's face is probably the first thing we see, even before any words has been said. And the facial expression for anger, for fear, or for happiness and sadness are completely similar throughout the whole world. And since these expressions, the facial expressions, are connected to our emotions, they really reveal what we are thinking. And they are perhaps our biggest non-verbal communicator. Have a look at this conductor, how he is communicating with his face. To conduct without arms, conduct only with face. Okay, he didn't actually use his arms and conduct whatever, but everything was there, the music was there. Yes, you can see that. That's quite interesting. Take away the arms, the filter, and just conduct with the face. It's fully possible. Okay, the next one is eye contact. Yes, have a look at these eyes. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Good eyes. Eye contact is important, especially when you listen to something and when you exchange ideas with someone and maybe you are in an interesting conversation with someone. And remember this, making eye contact only 30% of the time you talk with someone actually increases significantly what you remember of what has been said. That's quite interesting. And this also applies, of course, to communication between the conductor and the musicians to a large degree in the non-verbal communication. Because, and this is something that we should think about, the perception of musical credibility, openness, sincerity, the musical interpretation, and the personality comes through the eyes. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting face. However, I need to say one thing. We cannot just turn on the use of eyes or turn on the eyebrows or the hands or whatever. It's not like a light switch. It's definitely not. All these elements are a part of the conductor's instrument, as you can almost say. And at the same time, there is a very strong connection between all these elements and what we experience emotionally in the moment when we conduct. Hands and arm gestures. We started talking about a good handshake. And remember, your hands should always be in front of you in general. And hand gestures support your emotions, your intentions, and it increases the impact of your musical communication. Actually, hands can tell a story for us. And scientific research, I think this is really interesting. The scientific research has documented that there are more nerve connections between the brain and the hand than between any other parts of the body. I think that's really, look at this. Yeah. Of course, there are more non-verbal communication than only eyes, and we will get back to that a little bit later. And one of the things that conductors should remember is that as conductors, your hands are always in the front of the body, and as you can see, the hands are easy to see. It's very easy to see your hands. And you see all the conductors are eating big gestures like this, and sometimes it's too much. And since the hands are in front of you, it's not necessary to be big. So the Italian conductor, Carlo Maria Giulini, he put it this way. The clarity of a gesture comes from the clarity of your mind. And I think we could see that also on the previous picture, that the mind and the hand were going very closely together. And think of this. When you play an instrument, you're bound to use your hands. I mean, wind players, they have to use air. String players have to use their bow. But beyond that, we all have to use our hands. And it's the same with conductors. We use our hands. It starts with the hands. I usually say that when you conduct, you should start with your hand or maybe your fingertips. Then I can use the inside of my hand, and then maybe the wrist, and then maybe my lower arm, or maybe the upper arm, and maybe I end up like this. Yes. This is called victory arms. And this is the classic position, and I think we have been there, many of us, when we have been very confident in the center of attention or something like that. And how can I use this as conductor? Well, conductors will know that you have been here many times. If you have conducted Beethoven, for instance, the Egmont Overture or Beethoven Fifth Symphony, the hands are up here very often. So that's not an unusual situation or position for a conductor. Then we have something called body movements and posture. Did you know, have you thought of this? Did you know that it takes less than a second to make an impression, a first impression? People are remarkably good at forming impressions of others based on limited amount of information. From the first moment in a social interaction and before any words has been said, as I said earlier, people evaluate nonverbal cues, and this happens spontaneously, without intention or awareness, almost like an unconscious reflex. For instance, if you look at the shoes, the style of the clothes, the way people walk, the way they talk and use their words, and so on. And when it comes to personality, the postures. What was postures? Postures is how you use your upper body. These are very good indicators, and these postures that we can apply as non-verbal signals in our communication with musicians. Such as, for instance, if I do this means some kind of energy. I should have used both hands, but I hold the microphone. Yes. If I go from here to here, maybe it's more kind of from the inside, maybe I want to be on the inside. Or if I do this, maybe I try to concentrate some energy, more intense. Or if I do this, more relaxed. This is just an example of how I can use the postures as a base for different kind of non-verbal communication, because there are also other elements, like my hands, how I place my head, and so on, in connection with the music. But it comes very much from my upper body, my posture. Okay, so have a look at, and for conductors, most postural positions involve, of course, as I said, non-verbal signals from other parts of the body. Have a look at these positions. Yes, I like this one. Yeah, there are a lot of non-verbal elements coming up here, and also in the next picture. Yes, can you see? So how many non-verbal elements are present? Can you see that? Are there any suggestions? Yeah. You are free to say something. Yes. What can we see? What kind of non-verbal elements can you see here? No one? Face, yes. Face? Yeah. There's a face. Sorry? Eye contact, yes. Anything else? Hands, yes. Anything else? Sorry? Fingers, yes, fingers. That's right. Anything else? Yes, baton, that's right. Anything else? Probably sitting as I asked. Yes? Look at the position of the body. That comes from the posture, from the upper body. Is she going like this? No, she's going like this. I cannot say that this is a good conducting position, but still there is some change in the body because she's moving the body forward towards the orchestra. Orchestras actually don't like that, so I don't do that too much, and I wouldn't actually recommend it. But since she's doing it, I mean, nothing wrong with that, but it's another element of non-verbal communication that we sometimes use. If you talk to someone, yesterday, look at my position. I wouldn't, I would change, depending on what I want to say, to who. Yeah. So, okay, look at this. What kind of position is this? It's a quite nice position, a position with a lot of authority. It is, if you think about what we talked about in the beginning, the handshake. Yeah. She is more or less in a good, balanced handshake position with both hands. I think this is a good position because it projects integrity, authority, ability to communicate in a good way, and respect and sympathy for the ones that she is communicating with. I think, I like this, I must be a bit subjective, but I think it's a good position also. And we will see in the masterclass how we can work with different positions. Paralinguistics. You have already seen and experienced the paralinguistics, and that has to do with the vocal communication. And this is, of course, separate from the words, as you can see, as you have experienced already. And this, what is paralinguistics? Paralinguistic actually, it includes factors like voice, the volume, the speed, the pitch, and in combination with gestures when giving instructions to an orchestra. This can help a musician to remember what you just told them. For instance, if I go to poor Timothy and say, "Hey, Timothy, how are you doing?" Yes? Or, "Timothy, what are you doing?" Okay, same words, different message. Yes. I'm going to show you two videos now. And the first one has no film, only background voice. But when you hear it, I'm quite sure that it's not necessary with any clear video or film when you hear this.
Cari, non so mica se vedo come Madonna Santissima. Oddio! Contrabassi, corrono, mi coglioni lei! Obviously! You have no ears, no eyes! Corrono, Dio Santissimo! You! The purpose! You are always late! You have no ears, no eyes! Nothing at all!
Okay. Cool. Anyone who have heard it before? Not live, of course, hopefully. But yes, this is Toscanini, who is giving instructions to his orchestra in the beginning of the 60s. Now, this is one way of doing it. And now I will show you another way of doing it.
Entschuldigen, vielleicht, das ist, ich weiß nicht, kann ich sagen, bei Ferne, aber es ist für mich nicht genug raffiniert. Ich möchte mehr Kontrast zu diesem Beethoven. Zwei Pfoten Piano, das immer alles spricht, wissen Sie, unglaubliche Geist. Das ist doch eine unglaubliche Musik. Ach, wunderbar!
Okay, that was a different way of saying it. Could you also hear that the way he used the words? He said, wunderbar, unglaubliche Musik, which means incredible music. He just didn't say incredible music, but incredible music. So he put a message also in the words. I was so lucky that when I was a young student in Oslo, Maris Jansons came to Oslo as a principal conductor for Oslo Philharmonic Orchestra. And I was so happy to go to rehearsals and to concerts. I think I went to almost all his concerts during the years he was in Oslo. And this was how he treated this orchestra and how he trained this orchestra to what it is today. So I would prefer this. But this is two different ways of actually combining words with paralinguistics, as I said. The American conductor, Larry Radcliffe, he says in an interview, first, you have to give musicians the space to form their own feelings. That's why non-verbal communication is the deepest, because hopefully they are connecting to your body language and they are listening, and you are listening to what they're saying with their instruments. Think about that. I recently finished a research project on non-verbal communication, and the article I wrote hopefully will be published this year actually, not next year, but this year, in a musical journal. And in this project, I wanted to investigate the connection between the conductor's eyes, or the gaze, and the gestures and the general body language, and how the musician responds to this based on excerpts from the two orchestral works. That was Beethoven the 5th Symphony, first movement, and Brahms, 2nd Symphony, the last movement, very different excerpts. So through these interviews I did with the musicians, I looked at the relationship between the conductor's non-verbal communication and the music response that this communication gave as a consequence. And all the respondents, they stressed the importance of the conductor's eyes. And the study shows that we can distinguish between two different types of eye contact. That is the directed eye contact. That is has a distinction towards, or a direction towards a group or an individual in the orchestra. And some of the respondents, some of the musicians said that yes, we prefer eye contact from time to time. It gives us a feeling of being seen. And this could be people a wind player, it could be one of the string players in the section. It didn't differ between that. And that's quite interesting. And the other eye contact is a present gaze. A present gaze is not specifically towards someone, but it helps to convey a musical intention and a character in the music. And some of the comments from the musicians in the study were, at the concert, we do not really need very much, because it has already been agreed. But we are very keen to get a gaze. If you know, and the word gaze means eye contact. And when it comes to the direct gaze, it is important to get a sense of contact and understanding or sympathy. That we understand the same thing at the same time. And the musicians, they also, the study shows that the importance of the gestures beyond the beating patterns, of course. I mentioned this earlier, and the study also shows that the gestures and the body language is so connected to the conductor's musical will and the personality, and also to the conductor's physical presence in the room. And that was really interesting, I must say. So the musical presence, how the musical and the physical presence of the conductor can actually impose the music itself, that was really, really interesting. Yeah. One of the musicians, he put it this way: the importance of the conductor's physical presence in the room and how this can affect both the sound of the orchestra and the conductor's ability to bring the orchestra together. It tells me that it's quite important what we talk about when we talk about the communication through the body language, that we can combine our musical ideas with a good body language. I will always say equals instrument. Then we have a great impact on the sound. So, I have been talking now a little bit about visual and non-verbal elements and the possibilities of using these elements in our communication with the orchestra in order to make the musicians respond the way I want the music should sound. And after all, I think that is the most important for being a conductor, to make music together with the ensemble, choir, orchestra. And as I have pointed out, visual elements can help the communication. But at the same time, these elements can sometimes come in the way for the communication. Maybe some of you have played in an orchestra and you found that, oh, I cannot look at this conductor, it's too much, and so on. And you just play with the others, and you listen to the others, and you don't look at the conductor. And then maybe the conductor noticed that you didn't look at the conductor, and the conductor was beating even bigger, so that he or she was absolutely sure that you would see him or her. Yes. Maybe you have been in this position before. So, but have a look at this video. What has this to do with conducting? Well, I show you this video because it is a metaphor on focusing, on concentration, on inner movement instead of outer movement. I'm sure that this Zen archer was very concentrated, very focused, and in order to hit the bullseye, he could not move too much. He only had to do the necessary movements, no more. So how can we transfer this into conducting? Have a look at this conductor. Okay, have also look at this conductor. Okay, well, he's probably not a conductor, but I didn't bring in this clip just for fun. Okay, so it's very funny, yes. However, you could see that when he was conducting, or I would say beating, he was only beating when they played. So they would only beat together with music, yes. And that was also the point with the first conductor. I will get back to this first conductor. So it's an interesting thing. I will get back to it. From 1999 to 2015, a period of 16 years, I had the pleasure of studying with Professor Joseph Gifford at the Boston University. This man. He died some years ago at the age of 97. But he was teaching conductors at the Boston University for 30 years. He was not a musician. He was a dancer. But he was teaching conductors the combination between creativity, movement, and conducting. And he, as I said, he was not a musician, he was a dancer, but he knew the whole repertoire. It was just amazing. And he, in a way, he lived the previous 20th century. He went to concerts with Rachmaninoff, he went to concerts with Stravinsky, so he had so much to bring into the musical culture from his standpoint. And during this period, we worked a lot on body movements, awareness, centering, grounding, breathing, improvisation, movement improvisation, relaxation, in order to find more possibilities of moving in conducting. And the goal was to find an alertness, a presence in the conducting by going from beating to being. Yeah. And to find this being, there's no need to pretend or to try to do something. Because when you find this being, I'm sure that many of you have been there already. The inner music will flow more naturally. And however, to find this being or this presence can be a little bit more difficult, and it needs a lot of training. Training in different exercises, but also in the combination of a method that I have called the anatomy of conducting. And what is the anatomy of conducting? It's nothing to do with bones or medicine at all, but it has to do with the anatomy, the inside of the score, so to say. And the aim with this method is to prepare the conducting body or instruments, including your posture, your arms, hands, wrists, everything, to find a good movements for the music that you are conducting. And the method is quite systematic. I think Timothy would confirm that. And it helps, and also Hami, and it helps the conductor to identify where you should beat, and most important maybe, where you don't have to beat. Yes. So this opens up the possibility of exchanging the movements with more inner movement. And here comes this conductor in that you saw the first time. He didn't beat more than necessary. Okay, he has a very good orchestra, the Vienna Philharmonic. And they had some rehearsals and they know the music, but still, everything they need was there with him. Have a look at it one more time from the beginning. They could play it without him, but they will not play it. They would definitely have a conductor for doing this concert, of course. But they will also like him to be there, so he can, in a way, give them freedom and responsibility to play back to him. And that's the good thing with being a conductor, doing music together with the ensemble. Also have a look at this conductor. I think he also has a good, clear musical face, musical expression, and maybe also this one. Yeah. Have you seen this before? Yes. Most diminuendo, it says. It probably cannot be softer than this. Okay. Finally, I would like to say a little bit about, or give you some reflections that maybe you can remember. I don't know. Hopefully you will remember some of these small reflections, and maybe you can also apply these reflections that I will give you into your personal life and into your music life. Movement comes from stillness. Move purposely with freedom. That means that movements have to be initiated from being moved on the inside. Your movement should carry a musical message through a spontaneous and comfortable body language. More beats, less being, lesser beats, more beating. The beating sometimes come in the way of beating. The more you beat, the more you might cover up the musical message. Keep the pulse. Beat less, so that I, as a musician, can see your heart. Bigger beats, less attention. Smaller beats, more attention. If you beat too big, in the end, the musicians will not look at you. Beat smaller, and the musicians will be more interested in your musical message. Conduct your music, not your orchestra. Be moved by your inner version of the music and support it with movements. Then the musicians will give the same version back to you. Leave yourself to find yourself. Forget about your ego and try to find the essence of who you are when you are making music. Thank you.
那我们就